There is a moment in the Sauptika Parva, the 10th book of the Mahabharata, the book of the sleepers, when Ashwatthama stands in a forest at night, watching an owl move through the branches of a banyan tree. The camp of the Pandavas lies nearby. The war is over. The Kauravas have lost. Duryodhana is dying in the mud of the battlefield, his thighs shattered by Bhima's mace. And Ashwatthama watches the owl, silent, invisible in the dark, fall upon a flock of crows roosting in the branches, killing them one by one as they sleep. He watches this without flinching. He watches it, the text tells us, and he understands. What the text is showing us in that moment is not simply a man choosing violence. It is a man who has already been hollowed out, not by the war, but by something that began long before the first arrow was loosed on Kurukshetra. To understand the curse that falls on Ashwatthama at the end of the Sauptika Parva, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go back to a child drinking water mixed with powdered rice. The Adi Parva, the book of the beginning, tells us that Drona, the greatest military teacher of his age, lived in poverty. He could not afford milk for his son. The text gives us a scene of devastating precision. The boy Ashwatthama, playing with the children of wealthy families, is given pishtodaka, water mixed with ground rice, and told that it is milk. He drinks it. He shouts with delight, "I am drinking milk," and the other children begin to laugh. Drona, the text says, cannot bear to watch this. This is not merely a scene of childhood poverty. The Sanskrit tradition reads it as the founding wound, the moment that names what Ashwatthama's life will be structured around. Not the absence of love. That is the crucial distinction. Drona loved his son fiercely. The Mahabharata is clear on this. He performed austerities so that Ashwatthama would be born with the valor of Shiva himself. He gave his son the forehead gem, the mani, that shielded him from hunger and thirst and fear. He even arranged, when teaching the princes of the Kuru court, to give Ashwatthama a wide-mouthed vessel for fetching water, while giving every other student a narrow one, so that his son would return quickly and receive extra private instruction in the advanced uses of weapons. The love was real. The intention was care, but the structure of their lives told a different story. The wound of Ashwatthama is not the wound of the unloved child. It is the wound of the child who is loved privately but displaced publicly by his own father in the domain his father controls. Drona is a teacher first and a father second when he faces that question directly. When Ashwatthama demands that Drona confirm who he favors, as a guru, not as a father, Drona says plainly that he loves Arjuna because of Arjuna's excellence. He loves Ashwatthama as his son. As a student, Arjuna stands first. The father himself speaks the hierarchy aloud. Consider what that sentence does to a young man's sense of self. The one person whose judgment Ashwatthama most needs to trust has just sorted him into second place. Not cruelly, not without warmth, but clearly. And the domain where he has been placed second is the only domain available to him. He is the teacher's son. The Gurukula is his world. Archery and weaponry are his inheritance. There is no other field where he might be first. Theodore Goldstucker observed in his scholarship on this character that Ashwatthama, though born a Brahmin, found himself compelled by circumstance into the vocation of a kshatriya, a warrior, as if even his social identity was borrowed rather than native. He belongs neither fully to the world of scholarship nor to the world of kings. He is the teacher's son, perpetually adjacent to greatness, never quite inside it. The Sanskrit epithets cluster around this adjacency. He is called Acharya Putra, the preceptor's son, Droni, son of Drona, Guruputra, son of the teacher. Every title places him in relation to his father. His name itself, Ashwatthama, carries the sense of one who has the strength and steadiness of a horse. And yet the name too is something he must carry, must live up to, must prove. His identity is borrowed architecture. Now consider what Putra Moha means, the Sanskrit compound that names Drona's fatal attachment. Putra, son. Moha, delusion, confusion, the clouding of clear seeing. The Mahabharata uses this term to diagnose what goes wrong, not just in Drona, but in many of its central figures. Dhritarashtra's blindness toward Duryodhana, being the great parallel. Putra moha is not the love itself. It is what happens when love for a child becomes the organizing principle of a person's judgment, distorting their ability to act clearly in the world. Drona, out of Putra moha, gave Ashwatthama the wide-mouthed vessel. Drona taught his son the Narayanastra and the Brahmashirastra, the most catastrophically destructive weapons in the text's cosmology. He armed his son beyond wisdom. And then, when the moment came on day 15 of the Kurukshetra war, Krishna, who understood the architecture of Drona's love completely, used it as a weapon against him. Bhima kills an elephant named Ashwatthama and shouts the name across the battlefield. Drona cannot believe it. He goes to Yudhishthira, the one man known never to lie. Yudhishthira speaks the cryptic sentence the text has preserved for centuries. Ashwatthama is dead, but the elephant, not your son. Krishna has arranged for conches and war drums to be blown at precisely that moment. Drona hears only the first clause. He descends from his chariot. He lays down his weapons. He sits in meditation to search for his son's soul. And Drishtadumna beheads him. The text does not present this as heroic. Yudhishthira's chariot, which is said to have floated slightly above the ground as a mark of his perfect truthfulness, touches the earth from that day forward. The Mahabharata registers the moral cost precisely, but it also shows us, in the very mechanics of the deception, that a man armed with boundless military skill can be unmade by a single emotional structure. Drona's Putra moha was the door through which catastrophe entered, and Ashwatthama is left with the product of that same structure, a grief so total it has no channel but destruction. There is a kind of grief that does not know it has become rage. The Sauptika Parva gives Ashwatthama a speech in section 5, addressed to his maternal uncle Kripacharya, who raises principled objections to the night attack. Ashwatthama's response is a catalogue of the Pandavas' own violations of dharmic warfare. Drona killed after laying down his weapons. Karna killed when his chariot wheel was buried. Bhishma struck from behind, the shield of Shikhandi. The speech is not irrational. The grievances are real. The Mahabharata has shown us these events. Ashwatthama has watched righteousness bend and break throughout the war, and now he invokes every broken rule as justification for what he intends to do. This is the psychological maneuver the text is tracking with extraordinary care. The move from legitimate grievance to unlimited retaliation is not made in a moment of pure madness. It is made through a chain of reasoning. Each link in the chain is partially true. The whole chain leads somewhere that the text condemns absolutely, to a darkened camp, to sleeping children, to the sons of Draupadi murdered in their beds. A parent watching a teenager spiral, when the child says, correctly, that they were failed, that real unfairness happened, that they were let down, understands the texture of this moment. The grievance can be true, and the response still ruinous. The Mahabharata does not ask us to dismiss Ashwatthama's pain. It asks us to watch what he does with it when no one stops him. What comes after the massacre is the Brahmashirastra, the weapon Drona gave only to Ashwatthama, capable, the text suggests, of destroying the world. Pursued to Vyasa's ashrama, cornered, unable to recall the weapon once released, Ashwatthama turns it toward Uttara's womb, toward the unborn child Parikshit, the last of the Kuru line. Krishna enters the womb with his Sudarshana to protect the child. Vyasa intervenes. Arjuna withdraws his counter-weapon. The destruction is arrested. And then the curse. Sauptika Parva, section 16, verses 8 through 12. Krishna strips the forehead gem from Ashwatthama, the mani that protected him from hunger and thirst and fear, the one mark that had always distinguished him, placed there at his birth, and speaks the sentence the Ganguly translation renders as, "For 3,000 years you shall have to wander over this earth, without a companion, and without being able to talk with anyone. The stench of pus and blood shall come out from your body, and you shall live in dense forest." The Bori-consistent Sanskrit fragment reads, Tasmat tvam asya papasya karmanaha phalam apnuhi. Therefore receive the fruit of this sinful act. 3,000 years. Not eternity in the textual source, though some later traditions have stretched the number. 3,000 years of living, breathing, moving through the world, without being received by anyone, without conversation, without the simple human acknowledgement of being seen. The curse does not take Ashwatthama's life, it takes his belonging. The Chiranjeevi Stotra names him among the 7 immortals. Ashwatthama balir vyaso hanumamscha vibhishanaha, kripa parashuramascha, saptaite chiranjivinaha. Ashwatthama, Bali, Vyasa, Hanuman, Vibhishana, Kripa, and Parashurama. These 7 are the long livers, but every other name on that list carries immortality as a gift, a mark of grace. Ashwatthama alone carries it as punishment. He is the wound that cannot close, the man who cannot die and cannot be welcomed anywhere. Uniquely among the Chiranjeevins, his endless life is the precise form of his sentence. What to carry forward into your actual day. The Mahabharata does not locate Ashwatthama's catastrophe in a single decision. It locates it in a structure. A child taught that love and recognition are 2 different things, who spent a lifetime unable to separate them. The text's compassion is in showing us the wound clearly, even as it draws the line at what the wound was used to justify. Grief is real. The father's failure was real. The injustice was real. None of that is in dispute. What the text asks, quietly, precisely, without consolation, is whether we can bear the truth that a legitimate wound, carried without witness, without naming, without the willingness to stop the chain, will eventually find its way to someone innocent. The gem is gone. The wandering begins.